So in this video, we're going to discuss the grammar rules for using colons on the ACT. The one main rule you must remember about using colons is that it must come after a complete sentence, or in other words, an IC. So we're going to discuss the three usages of the colon. The first one is using a colon to introduce an example or a list. So in the example we have here is Claire went to the market to buy the ingredients she needed to bake her cake: flour, eggs, and sugar. So in this case, we're giving a list of the ingredients that she needs, which is flour, eggs, and sugar. If you've seen my previous video on commas, then you would know that both of these commas are necessary to separate all three items in the list. The second rule that you must know for colons is using a colon to give an explanation or an answer. So in this example, we have Lucy is afraid of bees. She was stung once as a child and ended up in the hospital. So in this case, we are using the colon to give an explanation for why Lucy is afraid of bees. And the third and final rule that you must know for using colons is to state a quotation. So in this example, we have, don't forget the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So the quotation over here is separated with this colon over here. Okay, and once again, I'll repeat that everything before the colon must be an IC. Alright, so let's try to apply the rules that we learned into answering these example questions for using colons. So in this first example, we have the wedding cake was made with layers of icing, fresh fruits, edible flowers, and chocolate mousse. Right away, I know that there is a list in this sentence, which are layers of icing, fresh fruits, edible flowers, and chocolate mousse. So the first rule for using colons is to introduce an example or list, which is what we have in option A. However, option A is incorrect because the word pattern is to be made with something. So it doesn't make sense to separate these two words with a colon. So option A is incorrect. And then option B, we have the same mistake, but it's actually just using a comma to separate these two words, which again is incorrect. You might fall into the trap of choosing option D just because there's no separation between the two words and there is a colon. However, if you remember from our lesson, we need to always have an IC before the colon. And in this case, the wedding cake was made with is not an IC. So option D is incorrect, which leaves us with option C. So anytime that the sentence makes sense without the colon, then you can just leave the colon out even though there is a list. Alright, let's take a look at one final example for using colons on the ACT. So in this example, we have at the supermarket, Mary picked up 3 items: bread, cheese, and soup. Right away, I know that there is a list in the sentence. The error in the sentence is that the list is not connected to this part of the sentence. So we know that the bread, cheese, and soup are the 3 things that Mary picked up at the supermarket, but it is isolated, it's separated from the sentence because it uses a period. Because we know that bread, cheese, and soup is a fragment and not a sentence, not an IC, we can eliminate option A. So let's move to option B. We have the use of a semicolon. So let's try to go back to what we know about using semicolons to see if this is used correctly. So when we're using semicolons, we learned that we need to have 2 ICs in order to use a semicolon. So let's try to see if this is correct. So here, at the supermarket, Mary picked up 3 items. This is an IC, so this is good. And then we have a semicolon, and then bread, cheese, and soup. Like we've discussed in option A, bread, cheese, and soup is not an IC. So we know that we can eliminate option B for the improper use of a semicolon. And then let's move to option C. We have the use of a colon. This is the only option that uses a colon. If we go back to what we know about using colons, then we know that we must have an IC to introduce the list after the colon. So, since we've already determined in option B that at the supermarket, Mary picked up 3 items is an IC, we know that bread, cheese, and soup after the colon is correct. So, we know that option C has to be the right answer. Just for practice, let's also look at option D and figure out why option D is wrong. So we know that in this question, we have a list, but in option D, we have a comma, and we don't introduce a list with a comma. So option D also has to be incorrect. Therefore, we are left with just option C.